Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. We believe at GST that intellectual capacity is evenly spread, but opportunities are not. Today, Simplenight Presents has an incredible guest, return guest, Eric Pelletier, a Bain consultant, an investor, all-around international global expert in terms of marketing, sales, business development, and more importantly, operation. With that, I'd like to bring Eric Pelletier on board. Hi, Eric. How are you today?
Hi, Gary. A pleasure to be here and see you.
Well, we need a lot of resilience in this world. Things are changing quickly. A lot of different dynamic forces out there today. But we talk about building a resilient tech company in a changing world. Well, we've sure got a lot of changes taking place right now. How about it, Eric?
Yeah, it seems that every week has something very different to bring to us. Yeah, so I think you're right. It does stress the impact of being resilient from the beginning and understanding what and how you're building your company to resist, because there is so much uncertainty that you need to factor it in what you're doing.
So let's talk about it. Well, how do you define resilience in a company? What is resilience? How do you define it, and what does it really mean?
To me, resilience is that you have a heading, and whatever the circumstances, you keep your heading. So bad things can happen, good things can happen, but you're still exactly in what direction you're going, and it's stable. So resilience actually is an element of stability in a sea of uncertainty.
Yeah, no, that sounds really great, right? The ability to adapt to disruptions, market-driven, technological disruptions, political, operational, and not being afraid of those challenges, but really embracing them, right? To be able to manage those risks proactively. Yeah, it's important, especially in this world. Like I remember watching the movie Forrest Gump. Life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, and these days you don't even know if it's chocolate or
Yeah, exactly. Or if it's a box, who knows, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, what foundational elements are essential for building resilience in a tech company, a tech startup, from day one? What do you think is really required from a foundational level?
Foundational level, it's an obvious one, and yet it's not. You really need to understand what you're doing. Okay, meaning that it's your business definition is what am I providing to the world, and then once you have that, what's the business model? Is how do I make money out of that? When I say that, it sounds pretty generic. So to be more specific, when you build the companies, you can see that as a combination of two elements. There are elements that you can scale, and then meaning that by scaling we mean that you essentially repeat them, and then you got elements that just grow with the company. So typically, so if you're a software company, your sales process, B2B, should be fairly scalable, meaning that it's this module that you can replicate. And then the other component is, you need to finance it. And if you sell for one, you need 20 cents. If you sell for two, you need 40 cents, etc. So resilience is brought about when you have a very good understanding of these two dimensions. And the first one is the critical one, because that's the not obvious one.
No, I agree with you. And you have to, when we're building resilience, you got to be agile, you got to be innovative, right? You got to get down through and build systems that are highly scalable. And you got to, I mean, these are all fundamentals of building a real company, right? So diversifying revenue streams, make sure financially that you're in good shape, right? You want
Yeah.
to make sure you've got enough runway, but these are like, keep it simple. So can you share if you look at it, can you share an example, Eric, of any company that you've worked with that's faced and overcome challenges, and did it in an incredible way?
Okay, I can take the example. I won't give you the name, obviously, but I worked and I did the strategy for a vaccine company, um, and and it was interesting. The first meeting, they said that they were a bit sad because they didn't see much potential anymore in their market. They had saturated their market, and vaccine is not something you can tell people to have two or three instead of one, and doesn't work that way. So they
Yeah,
felt that,
it's hard to upsell them on a vaccine, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. So, although they did try probably with COVID, but who knows?
Well, I think they're doing it now. When you look at the vaccines like Ozempic and Wegovy and all that, they have these different strengths, and you get used to one, then you go to the next one, and next one, next one. Guess what? The pricing's different.
Yeah, and it's pure upselling. So it was before that, before COVID, and I worked with them, and then very quickly I realized that guys, the way you define your business is wrong, because in essence you're looking at uh, public healthcare in Western countries. Well, the fact is, public healthcare is one thing. You got private healthcare, so your market is twice as big. And actually, you forgot all the non-Western countries. So your market is actually four times as big. So suddenly, when you do that, you realize that your perspective is completely different, and the way you build your company becomes completely different. And we actually fully reorientated the company on that basis. And it was just pretty straightforward, simple finding that get your business definition right.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, how important is adaptability and maintaining resilience, especially with rapid technological change or political changes?
Yeah, especially nowadays, they may even go together. um, the to be resilient. One, I think, to me, what's very important, it applies all the time. It's speed. Um, if you think about computer power is measured by clock speed. So a company, good companies operate quickly. So that's the first point about resilience. The second thing is hyper adaptability. So obviously, this is why speed is important, because you need to be able to adapt. There is a speed component to that. The other component to that is access to information. So, what are the feedback loops you have in place to know what's happening, and how quickly do you get the information back? Um, if I always take the example of Formula One cars. Nowadays, they have more than 1,000 sensors on the car, emitting on real time back to the pit, so they can track everything that's happening. So this is a feedback loop, very short one, super speedy. But this is with this you create resilience, because you got such a beautiful, complete vision of what's going on. Then you can adapt. Then the third thing is the ability of you and your people to actually, once you've understood what you needed to do, that it's the ability to execute.
So, what strategies do you recommend for handling financial volatility during economic downturns? Because you got to be resilient in that kind of situation too, right? So you got economic downturns, or let's say political instability, all right? Because that's really appropriate today. How do you manage? What kind of strategies do you utilize to be able to manage the political instabilities globally?
But from a financial standpoint, if you're a startup company, and I assume we're talking about startup companies, if you're a startup company, you need to raise more and more money. So you forget the cycles and all the what they tell you in finance books. Actually, no, money is a commodity. If there's money available, you should get it. So you should be raising money, raising funds all the time in those circumstances. The second thing is to really look back at your runway and see how you can extend it. So try to be super creative about the way you consume cash, your burn rate, because you have no visibility, to be frank. Uh,
Hmm.
the dollar could collapse by 20%. It wouldn't surprise anyone. Interest rate could go shoot up to 15%. Could happen. All these have a major impact. Money supply can completely dry up. So uh, go back to your burn rate. Remove, clean it as much as possible. Remove all the non-essentials and be steady.
So, how does company culture impact resilience, and how can founders nurture it?
Okay. The culture is very important. Peter Drucker's saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture is essential. People in startups tend to forget that because you create your company, you know it inside out, and you don't think about culture because you say culture will emerge down the road. Actually, no, culture emerges the day you push the button, the day you start the company. So at the very beginning, you need to instill the proper values in your company's culture. Now, there are many different cultures, and I don't think one culture is superior to another. If you look at Porsche, BMW, Mercedes, great companies, successful companies, different culture. So the point is not there. What's important is that what culture you're going to have, and there are still some invariant element. The first one, as I mentioned, I'm repeating myself because it's so important. It's speed. The second element is the way you take decisions, and it's your decision making process because this will inform the culture in the future. So if you have a screwed up process or an unstable process, you're likely to carry it over in your company. You look at amazing companies like BlackBerry that essentially died, well, it's still alive, but in many ways it died. From the very beginning, the way they were making decisions was wrong, and so with a bit of luck, they invented something brilliant, but the way they were taking decisions was that uh, did not allow them to capitalize on what they were building. So decision making is very important. Then there is I think part of the resilience is the quality of your people. Um, there are no good answers. You can be a very successful company with people not super qualified. Think of McDonald's, or you want the best people. Any AI company, OpenAI, you want the best companies in the market. What matters is that you know what you want, so you have a sense of the profile, and then on that basis, you know how to run your people. Because once again, the way you start running your people at the beginning, this will create the culture for the future.
What what advice would you give to tech entrepreneurs facing unexpected disruptions? What do you do when you come up to a situation where there is a financial turmoil, political instability, or some other issue, what should they do? How should they embrace it? What kind of a response should they have when they're in a situation like that?
These are circumstances that you can think of special forces. Okay, special forces, Navy SEALs, they're dropped somewhere. They have to do something. They have a super detailed plan, and then they land, and suddenly it goes wrong. If you remember, for Bin Laden, I think they lost a helicopter at the very beginning of the mission. And in Iran, way back, there was the disaster with the helicopter. So plans go wrong. But the difference, your mission goes right with Bin Laden because you have a very good sense of what it is you're doing. What it is you're doing, that's your business definition, that's your business model. And your ability to execute is your culture. So turmoil will happen. If you're able to analyze, modify, execute quickly, then you're protected to some extent. But it really reinforces the point that think of your company as a special forces unit, and that it's your ability to improvise on the ground really matters when there's turmoil. To be able to improvise, it means that you've run scenarios before, you've had lots of training, you know how to analyze the world around you, and you know what truly matters to you. It doesn't happen because you have a genius moment, when it goes wrong. No, you got the training, you got the understanding before that, and then you can be a genius.
And so you got to stay calm, right? So when you have those unexpected situations, stay calm, analyze the situation. Remember, my dad used to tell me, you got to think through it first. Think through it first. He always said that, and stay calm. Don't work on emotions. And for startups out there, a lot of it is, staying calm and working through it. Um, how does innovation play a role in the resilience of tech companies? What do you think? How important is innovation?
Well, allegedly, a startup company is innovative by nature, should be. That's what you would expect. Um, Innovation is actually a process. It's not a light bulb. The light bulb moment, that's 5% of innovation. The 95 remaining percent are just making things happen, execution. Um, so um, the way you innovate should always be open. And by open, I mean it's data intensive. It goes back to the customer feedback loops. It's really having a very fine understanding of what's happening, and then off that basis, you can start doing things differently. But it really starts with a different perspective. Now, the good thing is that in uncertain times, these are usually great times for innovation because the world is different. You've got to try new things, and some of them will work, and then you'll realize after the fact, well, we did innovate, and it's pretty nice what we have.
So, what practical steps can leaders take today to future-proof their tech companies so that they don't have to worry about the disruptions? How do you really help foster resilience? So, what would you do?
What I would do is I would make sure that at the heart of my business model there is something that's replicable. That's number one. The second thing is I would do considering the fact that I don't know if I'm going to get finance, so I need to take care of my burn rate, my runway. Um, but I also want to follow my CAC, my customer acquisition cost, and I really want to have a feeling that it's going down, and that's important because you know some stuff is not scalable, or some stuff actually is negatively scalable. You may start a business. For some reasons, you have access to clients easily, Um, but then after that, when you go to the next round of expansion, these clients are more difficult to get. So your CAC goes up. CAC should never go up; it needs to go down. If you don't have nowadays the absolute certainty it's going down, then you have a problem. You won't be able to generate resilience. So having that understanding this, and then the other piece of advice is, I'm sorry with the acronyms, you need to look at your TAM, total addressable market, because this is why I gave you the example of vaccines. People limit themselves. And actually, if you're smart, you go back to your market and you realize it can be expanded in many different ways. Um, a lot of entrepreneurs are focused on gaining market share. Um, so they define a business and I need to gain market share. But in some cases, it's not possible or it's too expensive. This is why you go back to the CAC. The CAC tells you, how you can build to the market share. Uh, but what you can do is, okay, there are some markets that are next to my market that I actually can address because the core needs or the core product to serve them is very comparable to what I have. So to build really protection in this period, so uh, keep raising funds, whether you need them, you need money or not, just raise funds. Work on the speed of the way you process information in the company. Make sure that your decision making process is well defined. Look at your CAC. Make sure that your CAC goes down. Otherwise, you have a model problem. And analyze your market and see how you can expand it your time.
No, that's fantastic. And how did the with the changing world the way it is today, what do you suggest for startups? What should they do right now to get ready to make sure that they're resilient? Eric?
Well, they need to get in a mental mood that nothing is guaranteed anymore. And that's the and it's difficult because we all crave stability. I mean, it's the very very basic human need. It's one of the first need is stability. Stability in your food supply, in your sleep supply, and then after that, when you have a company, you want to be able to draw lines, have a perspective. So be ready to operate in an environment where you have a lot less information than you would need, and then it's that this information may not be relevant. And this is once again why speed is so important. The speed will give you the ability to react quickly or not. And when it's uncertain, it's like when you go some rafting on some river, you need to react very quickly as you go down in the turbulence.
No, I agree with you. You gotta you so for each one of the startups out there, don't be afraid, stay calm, analyze the situation. For companies in general, analyze the situation, continually to innovate, continue to iterate so that you understand and pivot so that you're always looking for success. I mean, it's every company's got to pivot their entire lifespan, and if they don't, they're going to fail. Eventually they'll go out of business. So pivoting is important, and don't be afraid. Embrace it. Put your arms around it and grab it and hug it and go
Yeah.
down through and understand you need to find like-minded people too, because not everybody's going to be liking change. Like you said, Eric, some people like stability. Humans like stability, but other people like they're type A and they like to go out and take some risk in those kind of situations. As long as you're taking calculated risks and you're analyzing it, it's not a bad thing. There's always fear when you're building a startup. There's never, you know, rarely do you ever feel like everything's settled. I mean, that's look at the greatest companies out there. They started somewhere. Apple, right? I remember back when they started, and people were talking about. I don't think they know how to do it. They're not a business computer. Look at it now. Everything changes. So
Yeah,
don't be afraid. Embrace it. And this is a challenging world, but there's some incredible opportunities because wherever there's change, there's opportunities because people get afraid.
yeah. No. There is a dirty word in business, which is complacency,
Yeah,
and this is what kills companies. And complacency in an uncertain environment, is a death warrant. So you can remain calm, but keep analyzing, keep watching, keep testing, interact with the world, get your scenarios in place, knowing that you probably will not have processed the right scenario, but at least you'll be ready to. Okay, so what's interesting about scenario planning, it's not the scenario, it's the planning, in the sense that the planning tells you, okay, when I got these parameters, this gives me that scenario. So, and you learn to do that. It's a loop you go through, and you go through all the scenarios. So when confronted to a new situation, you have to generate the new scenarios, but you've done so much planning before that you know exactly the process to go through, and to be able to respond to circumstances.
yeah, you're right. You talk about the Black Hawk helicopters and going down through and anticipating the unexpected and not being afraid to adapt. That's critically important. Eric, thanks for taking time. Closing thoughts and how do people get a hold of you?
To get hold of me, there's my email is on the screen. Closing thoughts. It's the, the, there was a recent analysis by Bain, and they looked at the software companies, all the software companies, and they saw the companies from 0 to 100 million. There's about 15,000 of them in revenues. 100 million to 1 billion, you got 4%. 1 billion to 10 billion, you got 1%, and then above 10 billion, you got 10 companies. Okay, what this tells you is that scaling up is very, very difficult, very difficult. Um, and to me, it suggests that when you start building your company from day one, you need to understand how to scale it up. So you want to create a resilient engine. You want to have a very well-defined business. You want to understand your business model, and you want to make sure you got all these loops where you get information. Because, as you mentioned, most companies will have to pivot, maybe once, maybe a few times. Um, so you want to be in a position to do that because you got all the elements to understand where to go.
I agree. Eric, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. And thanks to all. Oh, we got a good comment. We have somebody just said, hi, great insights, and gave us a thumbs up. So that's really good. And thanks for the comments. They're always appreciated. And again, thanks to all of you to joining us today. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm the host of Simplenight Presents. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And we'll be back again soon with another exciting edition. Eric, have a great weekend. Enjoy yourself. And to all my audience, the same to you. Take care of yourself. Bye bye.
Right, Gary?